Brothers, let me ask you, have you ever felt more love from a dog than from the woman who promised forever? What if I told you that for many older men, the love they find in a dog or a cat feels far more genuine, far more comforting, and far more lasting than the love they once tried to build in marriage? It might sound strange to some people, but for countless men over 50, 60, and even 70, this is their truth. We live in a world where relationships have become complicated, full of expectations, financial risks, endless demands, and sometimes outright betrayal. Many men who've been through divorce know exactly what I'm talking about. You give everything, your time, your money, your heart, and sometimes all you get in return is conflict, chaos, and loss. So why are older men turning away from marriage and turning toward pets? Why are dogs and cats becoming companions, best friends, and even family to men who've lived through the storms of marriage and divorce? In this video, we'll explore that question. We'll hear the voices of real men who've chosen a pet over a wife, and we'll break down the reasons why. Along the way, we'll look at psychology, society, and something deeper, the human need for unconditional love, peace, and companionship without the drama. If you've ever felt judged for living alone with your pets, or if you've ever wondered why you feel happier with a dog than you ever did with your ex-wife, then you're not alone, and this video will show you why. Let's start with the voices of real men who've been there. One man wrote, "My doggies are all that I need. They give me unconditional love. They don't ask for my paycheck, they don't complain, and they're always happy to see me." Another said, "After divorce, I swore I'd never marry again. I bought a German Shepherd instead. That dog never betrayed me, never argued with me, and never judged me. Best decision I ever made." Henser, and this one hit home for a lot of men. "I realized my dog gives me more loyalty in one day than I got in 20 years of marriage." These aren't just random comments, they're patterns. Again and again, older men are saying the same thing. Pets bring peace, loyalty, and love without the chaos of marriage. And if you read between the lines, you'll notice something deeper. These men aren't just talking about animals, they're talking about survival, about rebuilding a life after betrayal, about finding something pure in a world that has taken too much. One man described how, after a bitter divorce, he would come home to silence so heavy it crushed him. Then he adopted a dog. He said, "For the first time in years, someone was genuinely happy I walked through the door. That changed everything." Another man in his late 60s admitted that his cat was the only living being that never made him feel like a failure. He said, "With her, I don't have to perform. I don't have to prove my worth. I can just be." That's the unspoken truth. For many men, marriage had become a performance, always providing, always proving, always defending. With pets, that mask finally falls. A dog doesn't care about your bank account. A cat doesn't care if you lost your job. They love you in your weakest moment, sometimes more than in your strongest. So, let's dive deeper. Why is that? Why does a dog or a cat feel more like a true partner than the woman they once promised forever to? 1. Unconditional love versus conditional love. In marriage, love often feels conditional. I'll love you if you provide enough. Suppose you act a certain way. If you meet my expectations. Many men have lived this reality. They provided, they sacrificed, they carried the weight, yet still, love felt like something that could be withdrawn at any moment. With pets, love is unconditional. You can be rich or broke, successful or struggling. You can walk through the door tired, empty, or even broken, and your dog will still wag his tail like you're the greatest man alive. That kind of love asks for nothing. It simply exists. And for men who've spent decades performing, that simple acceptance feels like oxygen. 2. Loyalty that never breaks. Too many men have been through betrayal, cheating, lies, divorce courts that stripped away not only their marriage, but their savings, their home, and sometimes even their children. After that kind of loss, loyalty is not just wanted, it's sacred. A pet, by contrast, never betrays. That loyalty might seem small to outsiders, but to a man who's been burned, it means everything. One man said, "I realize my dog gives me more loyalty in one day than I got in 20 years of marriage." Simple words, but for countless men, that's the heart of the story. 3. Companionship without drama. Marriage, even in the best of times, often brings arguments, petty fights, silent treatments, emotional games. And as men get older, they realize peace is priceless. A pet brings companionship without all of that. Sitting quietly with a cat on your lap, hearing her soft purr as you read a book, walking your dog through the park, feeling the leash tug with simple excitement. Those moments carry no hidden agenda, no criticism, no tension, just presence, just peace. For many men, that's worth more than romance ever was. Sue, no financial risk. Men over 50 know that marriage can come with enormous financial risks. Alimony, child support, lawyers, assets divided in half, retirement plans shattered. It's not bitterness to admit this, it's reality. The system is stacked in a way that leaves many men financially broken after divorce. Owning a dog may cost you vet bills, food, and the occasional carpet replacement. But it will never cost you half your retirement. It will never leave you wondering how you'll rebuild at 60 when you should have been preparing for rest. For many men, choosing a pet over remarriage is not just emotional, it's survival. 5. Purpose without sacrifice. A man needs purpose. Without it, he withers. Marriage often gave that purpose, providing for a wife, raising children, building a home. But too often, that purpose came at a cost. Some men sacrificed themselves so much that they forgot who they were. With a pet, there's still responsibility. You feed them, you walk them, you care for them. But unlike marriage, that responsibility doesn't drain you. It enriches you. Your dog doesn't ask you to change who you are. Your cat doesn't demand you become someone else. They simply need you to show up. And for a man who has spent decades being pulled in every direction, that simple, steady purpose feels like freedom. Luke, emotional healing. Studies show that pets reduce stress, lower blood pressure, and even ease depression. But beyond the science, there's something harder to measure. The quiet healing that happens when a man sits with his dog after a hard day. The way anxiety fades when a cat curls up by his side. The way loneliness disappears, if only for a moment, when another living being depends on him. For divorced men, pets often become the bridge back to emotional stability. One man said his service dog saved him from spiraling into despair after his divorce. Another admitted that rescuing a stray cat gave him a reason to wake up in the morning. These stories aren't just sweet, they're survival stories. Proof that sometimes healing doesn't come from therapy or dating again, but from the quiet presence of an animal who loves you without words. So when people ask, why are older men choosing pets over marriage? The answer isn't shallow. It's not about avoiding responsibility or running from love. It's about choosing loyalty over betrayal, peace over chaos, acceptance over conditions. For men who've lived through the storms, pets aren't just animals. They're companions. They're healers. They're proof that love can still be simple and real. Let me share a few stories that echo across the lives of older men. A man in his 70s, divorced after 30 years, said he felt utterly alone until he rescued a stray dog. At first, he thought he was saving her, bringing her home, giving her food and shelter. But as the days went by, he realized something else. She was saving him. He said, "Every morning, I wake up to her wagging tail, her eyes filled with joy just because I'm alive. She saved me more than I saved her." For him, that little dog turned silence into companionship, emptiness into purpose. Another man, a retired veteran, spoke of his service dog. He said his marriage had left scars that no one could see. His ex-wife criticized him every single day, picked apart his choices, questioned his worth. But the dog? The dog just sat by his side, quiet, loyal, steady. He told me, "My ex-wife criticized me every day. My dog just sits by my side, no words needed, and I feel whole again." For a man who had lived through battlefields abroad and battlefields at home, peace finally came in the form of a four-legged friend. And then there was the widower who lost his wife to illness. After months of grief, he adopted a cat from a shelter. He said, "She doesn't demand anything from me. She just curls up in my lap, and somehow that's enough." That small presence reminded him that love could still exist. Quiet, gentle, unconditional. These stories aren't rare. They're everywhere. Because at the end of the day, pets give what many marriages don't. Loyalty that never wavers, consistency that never fades, peace that doesn't depend on conditions. For older men, these bonds aren't trivial. They're lifelines. Proof that love doesn't have to be complicated to be real. Proof that sometimes The simplest companionship, the wag of a tail, the purr of a cat, is exactly what a man needs to feel alive again. So why are older men choosing pets over marriage? The answer is simple, and yet profound. Because pets give what marriage often takes away: unconditional love, loyalty, companionship, and peace. At 50, 60, 70 years old, men no longer crave drama. They no longer want to fight battles at home after spending a lifetime fighting them in the world. They don't want to gamble their savings or their sanity on another relationship that might collapse. What they want, what they need, is freedom, calm, and the quiet comfort of someone who's happy just because they exist. And for many, that someone has 4 legs, not 2. If you're one of those men, let me tell you this: stand tall. You're not weak, you're not bitter, you're not strange, you're wise. You've chosen loyalty over betrayal, peace over chaos, unconditional love over conditional demands. That's not running away from love, that's redefining it. As one man wrote so simply, "My dog is my best friend. He gives me more love than my wife ever did." Some people hear that and call it sad. But listen closely, there's no sadness in those words. There's no resentment. There's only clarity. Clarity that after years of giving and losing, a man has finally found love in its purest form. And for men today, clarity is everything. Because when you reach a certain age, it's not about how much you have, it's about how much peace you keep. And sometimes, peace looks like a wagging tail, or the steady purr of a cat asleep in your lap.